I feel like this has been an awesome year where I'm really learning how to leverage and use that word. One, because from a business perspective, it's honey drip from the lips. You have my permission. I actually made the word. Yeah, I went back in time and made the word a long time ago. So use the word leverage. Leverage uncertainty. All of us have uncertainty that we deal with every single day of our lives. Leverage uncertainty. Don't avoid it. Don't run away from it. Be the 1%. Leverage uncertainty. Make uncertainty work for you. What do I mean? How does that work? Imagine you knew for a fact, like a loaded dice situation or a loaded coin, however you want to look at that. You knew for a fact what the outcome of a particular situation was going to be. That seems really relieving. Like, oh, I know what's going to happen. Great, wonderful, perfect. But here's what tends to happen, and really follow me here. What tends to happen is if the outcome is positive, it still fails to meet our expectations, or it establishes an expectation that cannot be upheld. Oof. So here we might use the example of flipping a coin over and over again like you had to in grade school. As soon as it, but again, in this case, it's a loaded coin, you know it's going to land heads, great. Oh my gosh, I have so much great insight, so much information. I know what's going to happen. This is perfect. Oh yeah, and then it happens. Boom, instantly expectations fall through the basement. It didn't do, knowing the outcome and then achieving the outcome, almost never, the human soul is insatiable. They never satisfy us in the way that we think they're going to. But then there's the opposite. If you knew something was going to have a negative outcome, you simply wouldn't do it for the most part. You just won't engage with actions that you anticipate will have negative outcomes. Okay? And so if you want to get a lot done, and the Lord wants us to get a lot done, you need to learn, and I need to learn, we need to put on ignorance. And when I say put on, I don't mean go find ignorance or something like that. Own your ignorance. Have some humility. As Socrates said, I know that I know nothing. It was also said in Ecclesiastes, but this is a devotional, so I figured I'd turn to the Socrates quote. I know that I know nothing. Own that. I'm not saying run away from education. I'm not saying go get more information. You need all the good knowledge and wisdom and understanding you can get. Proverbs makes that crystal clear for us. But there is a joy. There's something of an excitement engaging in what is truly uncertain, because you don't have any expectations. It could go poorly. Sure. Maybe. It's equally likely that it's going to go well. And we're wise enough to know that in both situations, it's not going to do for us what we think it's going to do for us if we go ahead and tell it what it's going to do for us, right? So we need another place. Outcomes are not a great place from which to draw strength for decision making and for taking action. Which brings me to this last point. We've talked about uncertainty itself a little bit, and started kind of approaching this idea of having joy in uncertainty. But I think the last stage is accepting that you can't get to that next level of truly engaging in uncertainty with joy, with excitement, without accepting that joy comes from God. And I say that to mean basically this. Most of us do what we do. This is human nature. Don't feel bad. When I say most of us, I know that can feel like I don't want to be the mainstream. I don't want to be the 99%. Listen, most of us do what we do based off of what we think our doing will cause to happen, right? That's logical. It's actually technically a smart way to live life. This is actually the value of knowledge and wisdom and understanding, is that you can make perpetually better decisions and use your time more wisely, your emotional and mental and spiritual and literal resources in a more intelligent way. Information's great. And having intel and being able to anticipate outcomes is not necessarily a bad thing, but from God's perspective, and I hope this sets somebody free tonight. I hope this is going to encourage someone to do that thing they've been putting off, or to to finish the thing that they started, that they ran away from, or to look at the thing they're trying to look away from, whatever it is. I hope that this piece right here is really able to set someone free, because it has been doing numbers on me. It's been beautiful. It's been a beautiful, wonderful daily meditation. God isn't holding you to the outcomes of your actions. God isn't holding you to the outcomes of your actions. He's holding you to your actions. Why is that so important? If the only actions we ever take, we take on the basis of expected outcomes, then we're not taking actions so much so, we're choosing outcomes. Think about it. It's logical. We are creatures who, though made in the image of God, don't act very much like him. I can prove it. I've heard the question many, many times, why would God make the world if he knew that we were going to fail? Why would he make people if he knew we were going to fail and sin and fall away? If he knows everything and he knew all of that? I want to propose a new and a theologically accurate, biblically accurate, and empowering way of answering that question. God takes action from who he is, not from what he expects to happen. God acts from an internal source of goodness, a wellspring of good action. He takes action from who he is, not what he expects to happen. Remember when the Bible said that God was grieved? Obviously, he doesn't grieve like we grieve necessarily. You know, the Bible's doing its best to try and understand a God who is disembodied and who is spirit. He calls himself spirit, who hides himself in deep darkness. You know, the Bible's doing its best to that interplay between a male physical writer and a disembodied, all creating God out there, outside of time and space and all these things that he's made. It's doing its best to find words to talk about him. But the Bible says he grieves, you know, and as a kid I used to think, like, how does he grieve? Like, he knows everything. Again, the same question we already approached. And this isn't just for leaders and really cavalier people who would, of course, love this kind of insight, who are going to eat this kind of thing up. No, this is for anyone and everyone. This is a life guide. This is a way to see if you are making progress in faith. This is a way to see if you are maturing spiritually. Ask yourself. Or at least consider this the next time you go to make an important decision. Are you doing what you're doing to cause certain things to happen? Or are you doing what you're doing because it's what you do? It's just what you do. Are you doing what you're doing because you're expecting certain outcomes? Or are you doing what you're doing because inside of you there's this engine of self that is cranking out who you really are? Are you making those decisions based on who God is making you to be? As you become more and more like Jesus, are your decisions automatic? Are you taking action because that's what a Will does, or that's what an Angelica does, or that's what a Rick does? When we're taking these actions, is it because, oh my gosh, I want so-and-so to like me? Oh my gosh, I want this deal at work to work out. You know, Learn to do what you're going to do because it's what you do. God doesn't want to work on the fake version of you that's superficial and just, optimizing for outcomes. He wants to work on the real you. He wants you to be like him, a wellspring of goodness, of good action, of wise action, wise speech, all the things that bubble up and come out of you, those things called automatic and spiritual, that those things would be their own cause. They wouldn't just be connected to some optimization chart that is optimizing for some desired outcome. And that's the joy we can have. Let's see, I got 15 seconds. That's the joy we can have. Recap. We can have joy in uncertainty because God doesn't care about the uncertainty. He's not bothered by it at all. He's looking to see what we're going to do. He's not looking to see, he's not watching the connection between our actions and our outcomes. He can change an outcome in a second, like that. He can just unwrite the laws of reality, like when Peter walked on water. He can just change them. He can suspend all the laws of physics and reality and matter and space and time. It's of no consequence to him. But what he has given us to do is to act from within ourselves, to bring out from within ourselves some expression of that self he placed in us, that God-likeness that he placed in us, that Christ-likeness. So my challenge to each of you to make this really, really practical is, examine your life, identify those things, those areas where uncertainty has you trapped. For some people, that's going to be knocking a door or knocking the 100th door, making the 100th call, calling the 100th play, asking for the 4th time for a promotion, establishing clearly that you deserve a promotion and presenting that to a manager, getting your house clean. Yeah, that's hard. That's actually like super tough. Don't downplay that. That's like a high level of complexity. A house is a very complicated thing, and organizing it is no small feat. If for you that thing is just cleaning your house and keeping it clean for a week or a month, that's highly uncertain and complex work, and you should have a lot of joy in engaging with it, because each day, if you move one book from one room to the other room that it actually belongs in, to the bookshelf that it actually belongs on, you've done good work that God honors, that he can use to make you stronger and that he can use to deepen your soul for even harder and more fulfilling work. You might look back at your house and say, oh my gosh, I wasted that whole day. All I did was move a book. Why'd you move that book? Because that's what you do. Because you're trying to be like Jesus. You're trying to move and get stuff done. Focus on what you can do. Stop thinking about these outcomes you can't control, and trust that God is doing the same. He's looking at what you're doing. He's not looking at he's not looking at the outcome of your actions. He's looking at your actions. He's judging you on the basis of you. I think that's enough. Hey, I actually made 15 minutes, 17 in fact. So cut some minutes off. I don't know, have fun with it. Love you guys.